All right. So tonight we're going to talk about where you'll work as a developer on the Salesforce platform here on System.debug.
I'm disappointed. I didn't get to see the air guitar live.
Live, maybe on the closing. But speaking of live, Ryan.
Yeah, what are you doing
What's
here
up,
in
man?
Wisconsin?
It's so good to see you.
All right.
So if you haven't figured out what's going on here, I'm actually here in Wisconsin, broadcasting live from Ryan's house for once, and RJ is still stuck in Atlanta. Oh yeah, RJ, that one.
Stuck.
Yeah.
Totally
We have to get used to a different camera situation here. We got a camera up here, but we got our screen to make sure we're not doing anything silly there. So we're gonna wing this one.
Yes.
So and hopefully the mic's working.
So anyway,
I can hear you guys.
Well, thank you.
I'm glad to hear that. So all right, we all know that Dreamforce is coming up real quick, right? A couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's like less than 30 days away now.
Blowing my mind. You got your plane ticket?
Plane ticket is bought. Yes.
Yes?
Yes, on credit. Sorry, I'm gonna have to like take out loans to get to Dreamforce this year.
I was really hoping he was gonna say he hadn't bought his plane ticket yet, because then I wouldn't be alone. I have not bought my plane ticket. You guys might want to blow up my Twitter or something and make sure I do that.
Remind him.
Otherwise, I will miss
often
Dreamforce, and I think I'm gonna make some people upset. So
yeah, we can't have you miss Dreamforce because now we got shirts.
that's right, matching shirts. I'm totally gonna wear it too.
I'll be wearing that.
Are you wearing yours, RJ?
Yeah, of course.
Wait,
Totally.
wait, is RJ going to Dreamforce?
No, RJ's not, but he's also not actually wearing his shirt.
No, I'm not. I'm the lone wolf here in this situation.
All right, fine.
So let's talk about where you're going to work for the Salesforce platform, right? Lots of job availability. Okay. Recently, I heard that there is actually about a 0% unemployment rate on average for IT jobs currently in the United States, which is pretty phenomenal.
That's crazy.
And I'm pretty sure that translates into developers on Salesforce. But you're going to have a couple of different options as to where you could possibly end up going to work, right? So you've got people like RJ and myself. We work for an ISV, which is, a big Salesforce kind of company. You have Ryan here. Ryan works for a consultancy, which kind of onboards.
Yeah, we do it all. Onboards, customization, support, all that stuff. Yeah.
And then you could also end up doing customer, which more or less is, well, it's kind of as it sounds. They're the ones using the consultancies and using the ISV for the platform. So to kind of get more into detail about the day-to-day of it, I want to, I guess, start out by talking about consultancies. So how long have you been working at a consultancy, Ryan?
I have been a consultant since 2002. So what is that? Like almost 16 years.
All right. And now you're at Flexion.
Yes, Flexion in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. Yeah.
I pronounced that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Flexion. Flexion.
So Flexion.
Bending stuff.
But this is your second go with them?
Yes, it's my second go.
All right. When you first started, how is it different than what you're doing kind of now?
Now it's very focused, right? Because I'm on Salesforce platform, and I've told them when I came back that that's all I'm going to be doing. That's all I'm interested in doing for them is working on the Salesforce platform. Before that, I was DevOps, so I was doing everything. I was, starting in the project management. I'd spin up the Linux boxes, configure Apache, configure the SQL servers, code it, deliver it, support it. I mean, I was full stack, right?
Okay.
I
So
did
Flexion
everything.
Is more than just Salesforce.
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, Flexion, I am the practice lead there, and it's a very small practice at this point in time. I brought them the ability to do Salesforce stuff. They didn't have Salesforce before.
Okay, that's super cool.
So yeah, I brought that to them when I came back.
So now, how does it usually go about when you're starting up as even like a lead developer? A new project comes in. How does that kind of take hold inside of your job?
It really depends on who you're engaging with. It depends mostly on like if the client that we are working with already has project management set up or already has BA. Otherwise, we have to supply that, right? So it really depends on where in the process we're starting. A lot of times they'll jump in and they already have requirements. So we just kind of sit down and verify with them. Is this really what you want? We try to dig and tease more details out because the devil's always in the details. You can get some sort of what they call fixed bid, which is not something I like to do because there's just always so many unknowns. But to tease out more information to figure out, okay, here's potential gotchas, here's integration points, etc. You have to know something about their business as well. You can't just kind of, you don't live in this little box anymore. There's, for one of my clients, they do a lot of printing. For another client, they do nothing but support for their HR organization, right? So it's you get exposed to a lot of different businesses, and you kind of have to have more of a breadth. You don't necessarily have to have a tap root down in any one of these technologies or verticals, but you kind of have to at least be able to pick up on that stuff quickly as a consultant. And so I always feel like that's the hardest part for me, but apparently I'm doing okay.
So now with a consultancy, that typically means that you're onboarding clients on a Salesforce, as we're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
About how long would you say the process goes for that? Is it something where the client is kind of always a customer at that point, or is there, you gotta let them fly?
My goal personally is to basically work myself out of a job, right? So I go in there, I try to do a good enough job to where they eventually learn how to fly on their own.
Okay.
A lot of times, though, I'm there just as basically staff augmentation. They're a big project. They just need somebody to get the ground going. I mean, hit the ground running and just hack through stuff and get it done for them. So it really does depend on the project and on the client. Sometimes they have a need for you to take it, and then you are kind of married to them forever. I've had a few of those, right? Even in my previous world, not just Salesforce. I handled one client. I was their sole consultant for 10 years. While I was at Flexion the first time. And so you will find clients that they just become very reliant on you, even for simple things like, I'm a developer, and not to say that, certain functions don't belong in the development role, but I used to get tickets sent to me for just adding, fields to page layout. Right.
So would you say that then kind of as a consultant, whether you're brought into a consultancy as a developer or an admin, you more than likely end up playing both roles?
Yes. I have anyway. Yeah.
Okay. Now, as an ISV developer, have you found that to be the case for you, RJ?
I don't know.
So, sorry, I muted so that it wouldn't keep switching, because any little tiny noise I'm making here switches the camera. But no, I mean, yes and no. It really depends, right? So when we were first starting out, right, we were a tiny little startup, and every little thing that happened it turned into a big thing, right? So it was like, hey man, we need to do this, but we also need to do X, Y, Z to get it to that level, and the X, Y, Z was admin stuff, and then also, since we were small, we were kind of being the admin. We all wore multiple hats, right? So yes, in the beginning, but now not so much.
All right.
Gotcha.
So, oh yeah, I guess because Saber was, but you were in the transitioning phase, right?
Yeah, so think about this, right? At Cloud Built, when I had first started up, was almost 3 years ago, and it was Cloud Built at that time, and it was basically in the dev office. It was me, Ben, Kev. That was it. So there's the four of us. And then in the sales office in Charlotte, it was like, I don't know, tops 20 people, tops. Maybe less, most likely less than that, right? So our admin was non-existent. It was Ben, really. Ben Brantley and Ben Bagley. So then it just fell to me also, like, hey, if you want to do anything, you got to admin it. Sorry.
Okay. So now, have you ever worked for either of you? Have you ever worked for a customer on Salesforce?
No, not on Salesforce.
No. RJ?
Nope.
I've done a couple of our services projects, if that counts.
Fair enough.
I don't really.
So, kind of give the general idea between the difference of a ISV versus a consultancy versus a customer is typically customers are kind of the end of the line. They're not providing their services from that point on are being extended beyond a configuration. sort of standpoint, right?
Mhm.
It's the point where you're breaking out of becoming a services provider for Salesforce to a actual user of Salesforce. And it's kind of crazy because I know as the only real customer experience I've ever had in any sort of faction at all was in organizing Southeast Streaming last year, where we had a Salesforce org.
Yeah.
And it was the very first time I ever had to use Salesforce.
Okay, so you bring up a great question. That's what I'm always fascinated. So if you're an ISV, as you all are at Map Anything, how much of your day-to-day actually is Salesforce? Is any of it? Or is it just because you have a Salesforce product that you are doing Salesforce work? I'm really curious because it's like your whole day, and granted with things like Lightning and stuff now is all JavaScript, but your whole day is like JavaScript and stuff. And you're not like doing your typical, I need to create a workflow rule, I need to create a process.
And that's what I was going to say.
That
is actually, believe it or not, that's when you do get into the Salesforce side of things. As a developer for an ISV, typically the bugs are what cause you to go in and actually start using Salesforce, because you have to replicate what the client has set up in their org. Why is it failing? And a lot of times it's not as just simple copy and paste, you know, because for most of us as developers, the only stuff we have set up in our orgs are based because we were troubleshooting a client's org. Otherwise, we would never have set it up. We would never change and enter in a validation rule or a process builder or anything like that. So if anything, I would say that an ISV developer's org is the most screwed up Salesforce org possible.
That's crazy.
I would agree with that 100%. I would agree with that.
That's crazy. So, I mean, but you still call yourself, and believe me, I'm not questioning, right? But I mean, but you still call yourself a Salesforce developer, right? But really, y'all are JavaScript developers.
No,
Apex.
Anything, right?
I
program in Apex.
So you do
like
Apex?
A boss.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I don't know what y'all do, and I just know that Map Anything's got like a lot of JavaScript there, and I always hear you talk about JavaScript. But like, so you do have.
Well, there's definitely a ton of JavaScript, but you got to remember that you still have to connect the data.
That's okay. Yeah, I suppose you're.
And you're still building out like dynamic queries, and you're still like everything has to come, like everything has to interact somehow or another. And once again, you like one of the challenges as an ISV, I'll admit, as an ISV developer, is probably like well, there's two things that I would say I think about constantly as a ISV developer that I didn't as a consultancy developer. And one is security, right? Is I'm conscious now about the security because I'm not really doing it as a one-off. Now
right, you're doing this for all of these people who are going to install your product. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm much more conscious about security. But two, speed, right? What's rendering or where is stuff happening? Okay, because you don't want it all to be dumped onto the client, and you also don't want it all in the server. And when you're in a competitive space, such as most ISVs are in a competitive space, amount of data displayed, the speed at which that data is retrieved and displayed, all those things matter. So you can spend a lot of time in R&D in both, and you can write out the entire program in Apex and the entire program in JavaScript, and then slowly start weeding it out to figure out which algorithms are faster where, so that come runtime, you can put 50,000 markers on a map in 10 seconds.
You got to be careful though, because it's all rendering on the client. And so if you put too much in JavaScript, if they don't have enough RAM, you're out. But if you load Apex with too much of it, Apex will poop out. It's it's a balancing act for sure. And then just to make it to put it in more concise terms, Ryan, for you, basically most of the JavaScript, I would say probably around 85 to 90% of the JavaScript that happens at Map Anything is purely UI based. So it's rendering something, or it's doing something UI based. Whereas to say, or not to say that the Apex isn't building towards that, but most of the Apex stuff, that's what you would look at and call completely back end. you know, because there's not a lot of Visual Force. There's Visual Force, but there's not a lot of Visual Force components that are being used. It's mostly JavaScript for the UI and Apex for the backend.
Gotcha.
But once again, you know, that's, or not even once again, I guess we never said it, but what may be, you know, unique for Map Anything, which I guarantee that's not unique for Map Anything, that's probably very common across the board for most Salesforce applications, is that quite a bit of them are ran. I mean, but that's, I mean, almost any web application is going to have some server code and some client code. That's just, you know.
I always hear you guys talking about the JavaScript stuff, and so for whatever reason, it keeps leaving my brain that you are doing Apex backend work there and everything, and so yeah, and you know, I have to stop for a second and shout out to Megan Bronke, who's typing faster than I can respond in YouTube. But hello, Megan. But she's saying Raymond is stealing a lot of her comments and her thoughts. So hello, Megan. Thanks for joining us. Yeah,
Kevin made that word up.
Kevin made that word up.
Can I see? Where do I see her comments, guys, boys?
You actually can't see them unless you are watching the YouTube channel. But since Raymond has set up our video today,
Ryan,
we can't.
Are you saying you're watching the show?
I'm kind of watching the show.
Why don't you be on the show?
I'm watching it.
Would you like to join us?
I'm watching it 15 seconds behind what's happening. Roughly.
Gotcha.
But anyway, yeah. So
Probably.
I mean,
I've done that.
The whole Apex thing. I just forget that you do that because I hear you guys talk about.
Totally. No, I mean you must use a lot of Apex though, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's all I do because I do all my development on platform. I haven't even had the opportunity, although I would welcome it, to like jump off platform and do something on Heroku and integrate.
But nobody ever asks for Visual Force pages.
Well, I do that too. Yeah.
But don't you ever toss in JavaScript into there, or is it just that you just pretty much stick specifically to the Apex tags?
It depends on what they're actually asking for. I've had to do some next level JavaScripting as well. I don't like to mix the two a whole lot. I try to rely on the action function and stuff like that as much as I can. That said, with Lightning and everything though, I mean, yeah, now it's like the world's your oyster, I feel like.
Yeah.
I've done tons of Visual Force, more than I really care, because for the longest time Visual Force issues do nothing but tick me off. But yeah, I do a lot of Visual Force. I do a lot of Apex. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I do a lot of the configuration, and that's actually been the biggest switch for me. Is I've been a developer for almost 18 years total. And it was hard for me to make that switch into the configure side of the programming. So as a matter of fact, now though, is like, I feel like I do more process builder flow than I do anything else.
Really?
Short of when I'm brought in to a client that has an existing code base that needs stuff modified. But if there's ever a situation when I'm in there where I'm like, we could actually drop this bit of code and your admins can take care of it if we move this functionality over process builder and flow.
It's really, really relevant that you know the admin side of Salesforce.
I think so. And I was having a talk with somebody the other day. Oh, I can't remember who it was now, but we were kind of thinking like, it's almost as if, I think it was Jennifer Bennett, my developer twin, but it's almost as if we were thinking, you know what, it would almost make sense for Salesforce to say, you know what, before you can become an Apex Apex Visual Force developer certified, you should at least pass your admin exam.
I think, okay.
And, when I first started on Salesforce, Kevin, my boss, was always adamant that I go ahead and get my admin. And I was like, no, I'm not going to get my admin. I just want to be my developer. And then in May, so I was on the platform for 3.5-4 years before I finally got my admin certification. I've been a developer 401 forever. I've got to go and retake and get like the Dev 1 now, but
I got 2 passes from Trailhead X, and I haven't.
You got to get on that.
I have to get on that. Like, legitimately have to get on that. Megan over here is still going. Megan.
Yeah. So what are we saying over here, Megan? She's JavaScript, front end developer, everything else. Yes. I don't know. She's typing so fast I can't keep up with it. This is good stuff.
He's a unicorn.
Who's a unicorn?
What is going on over here in the chat? If you're following the chat,
I'm not.
Can you please chat and tell me what's going on in the chat?
I need to pop it open and see what's happening.
Yeah, this is unique because normally I'm right in front of the other laptop, so I can see it when it's coming up, and then you guys are interacting with each other. And now you and I interact.
I know you and I are interacting, and RJ's all the way over there.
RJ's all by himself in an office with nobody to interact with, and so yeah.
So as none of us have really been customers, we can only kind of well, let's make up a word for Megan's sake. Skeculate. We can only speculate that
Nice.
that a customer, I mean, like, I've known a couple of people who have developed for customers, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, they have a normal day-to-day license or development cycle.
Mm-hmm.
But from the most part, from what I hear from our coworkers who have worked for customers in the past, Dan and David have both said that it becomes more maintenance.
It very much does. So that is one reason I've always been concerned whether or not I actually want to become on the customer side, because it just becomes like the same thing. I mean, it's the same problems, it's the same environment, and now you're just in maintenance mode. And I think developers tend to get bored when we hit maintenance mode, right? Developers want to create and do new things. And if you're at a company that, unless they are moving and they have a roadmap and we're doing this and then we're going to this product, we're going to make this, and that's great to keep things moving along. But if they're one where it's like, hey, everything's working, now we're just kind of in maintenance mode, a little enhancement here, a little enhancement there, I feel like I would get bored. Which is why if I eventually go the customer route, I would rather be like product ownership strategy than the developer. But that said, I know very many happy developers that are fine living in the customer world, right? And they love it and wouldn't have it any other way, So, and I think some of them would make very good consultants as well. But, they like doing what they're doing where they're doing it because of that consistency, where I think consistency, I could see myself getting bored with consistency.
I question it. There is, okay, so as a consultant, I kind of got stressed out about the constant change because you couldn't feel true ownership towards anything. So I'll admit that as a consultant, that's kind of how I felt. As a ISV developer, there have been times where I wish there was some monotony instead of a constant feature release date and everything is like on deadline. And consultancies are very much the same. But because it's for one customer, you might be able to kind of talk to them a little. As an ISV, you have huge amounts of like pressure on you because everyone's expecting it at this point. So I've thought about it. However, once again, yeah, you do get to the point where it would be nice for a little while, but I don't think I could deal with a maintenance style of life over and over and over again.
I go back and forth. So you ask me when I'm having a bad day, and I'm going to absolutely say, God, I just want the same environment and no more surprises, right? Because you get up in the morning and you have a set plan for something, and then you get an email or a phone rings, and then all of a sudden something's out and it needs your attention. So yeah, it gets to be very stressful when you have those situations. So yeah, it's really hard to tell. But we're reading Megan again.
Yeah, we are, because she had something. I mean, she says, okay, but back to being a customer, at least as a partner, you can work on a product. And I completely agree with that. Just being a customer gets maintenance. Keep awkwardly.
She says, keep reading awkwardly.
Okay. Write more.
But that's the whole point, right? What you're saying is, as a consultant or whatever, it's true. I really don't get a lot of product ownership in anything, right? I don't feel like, unless I'm involved from beginning to end, I don't feel like I really own that product when it's done. Now, that said, one of the partners that I work with on the West Coast, we're going to do a communities launch here. And I've largely architected that from the start. We've ideated together and came up with it. And even though one group of people said you'll never sell that, we actually sold that idea and they're on board. So I feel tremendous ownership with that one. So the ownership does occasionally come. It's more of a unicorn in the consultant side of the world, I think. But yeah, I feel like I need some of that surprise. Now, like I said, when you have your day planned and then it just blows up in your face because surprise, #consulting, then that gets to be a little #consulting. Yeah. So the grass is always greener, right? I can see myself saying, I've had it with consulting. I want to be a customer. And then after 6 months going, okay, let's bring on something new. Right.
Totally.
So yeah, it's just, it's a wonderful world. And encourage everybody to just try their options, right? If you are somebody that likes more consistency and you know how your day is going to go from 8 to 5 for the most part, then you're probably leaning more towards the customer side. If you are wanting that change of pace and something different and be exposed to all of the different areas that you can touch with Salesforce, communities on one thing and maybe Service Cloud here or Marketing Cloud here, then maybe consulting's more for you. But if you want to get into that, hey, I want to bring a product to market and launch it or whatever, now you're talking about ISV, right? So there's something in it for everybody. I think a lot of options.
Well, all right. So a couple of quick notes before we kind of wrap the whole thing up here. We're going to remember be at Dreamforce.
Yes.
November 9th. And I've already talked to Ryan, and all you have to do is find Ryan in the crowd and say, I want to be on system.debug. And Ryan will do an interview with you.
Sure.
On Facebook Live. Or
I just found out.
He will do it live with you. So you can be on system.debug.
Brand new. This is brand new. We're just learning about it.
Great. Yes. By all means, man, find me at Dreamforce because I like to interact with people when I'm there. So yeah, it's November. I get in on November 5th. I fly out on the 10th. I purposely keeping my schedule pretty open.
Okay.
So I can just see where things take me. I will absolutely be unavailable if I can get into the Michelle Obama talk, though. I guarantee you I will be there for that. And then, yeah, we'll see what else happens, what else I get involved with.
Lenny Kravitz?
Yeah, I'll probably go. I don't
Alicia
know.
Keys?
I don't know.
They're playing at Dreamforce, everybody.
I know they're going to be at AT&T Park, which I may go for the venue alone because that is a great
walking
venue.
Distance.
Yeah, you can actually walk. I walked when Green Day was there in 2013.
15 minutes from the Moscone West.
Yeah, it's not going to be like out at the Cow Palace or the pier where you got to take buses and everything. Like
right.
That. Yeah, so I didn't even go last year, but this year I might. I don't know.
Well, hit me up. Maybe I'll walk over there with you.
There you go. That sounds good. And find us. We'll walk over there with you and do a
That's
Facebook Live, apparently.
The whole way.
The whole
way to AT&T Park. So
I can see that happening. I can definitely see that. BJ's like, hey, wait. We're not there yet. Keep talking.
Yeah. So remember to run into us at Dreamforce. Remember to like and subscribe to the videos if you like and want to subscribe to them. But we really appreciate it when you all do. And
we like to watch that little number go up.
We sure do. And remember, keep listening if that's what you're doing. We really appreciate every one of you. So
yeah, help us spread the word. Hey, real quick, are we done with the shirts?
We are done with the shirts, but I do want to say that we brought in about $300 in donations for Feeding Texas. So I really, really want to thank everybody out there who helped raise money for this.
Yeah, that was cool. Felt good to do, and
we'll be doing it again.
Yeah.
But we're gonna pick a different food bank every time. So maybe we'll be doing one near you.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Or Atlanta if this hurricane hits us pretty hard.
They just had a tornado on the east side of Madison.
We did. My daughter was actually at a swim.
Tornado?
Yes,
yeah. Tornado. Don't you know?
Yeah. Don't you know? Oh, Bobby, don't you know?
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot. So yeah, we had a tornado. My daughter and my wife were at my daughter's swim meet, and they had to go into the locker room and hang out for like 20 minutes. So yeah.
Oh man,
it's pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it apparently touched down, did a little bit of damage, but I don't know what. I didn't, sure as hell was no hurricane, man. I mean, my heart goes out to all those Puerto Rico and all of that. I mean, man, tornadoes are like 15 seconds, intense wind, and it's over. But like hurricane is all damn day. And
we had one guy in our team in the Atlanta office who actually got the whole team together, and we raised almost $400 and went to Publix and Walmart, and we brought a whole bunch of stuff and dropped it off at a restaurant that was filling up a cargo plane. So just the devs in our office helping out. I was really, really glad to know that I work for that kind of a team.
Yeah. And so real quick then, before we go off on that, what role do you think being part of the Salesforce ecosystem plays in that? Do you think Map Anything would just be that kind of company anyway? Or do you think there's a large influence coming from the 1-1-1 model and all of that?
I honestly feel Map Anything would be that way anyway. And I say that because once again, for instance, in this case, the employees drove it. We didn't ask for permission. We didn't tell the rest of the company. We just said, hey guys, you know, here's an email. If anybody's willing, I'm gonna drop it off on Saturday. So just bring it in.
Cool.
So knowing that those are your coworkers, that it's self-driven, it's driven from the team versus, you know, the company.
I feel like Lewis would have done it anyway. No
I
matter
agree,
where he
and
worked.
that's what's
You know what I'm
great about
saying?
it.
I feel like Lewis is just like, yo, I'm doing this. And it wouldn't have mattered if he worked here or McDonald's or KPMG or wherever. He would have just been like, yeah, whoever wants to get involved, hop in. Like, let's get this party started.
Yeah, I like that. I hope to see more companies start doing stuff like that.
I think we're gonna find it.
Yeah.
Well, all right, everybody.
Yeah, sorry about that. Little sidebar there.
It's cool.
Yeah, are we done?
We're done.
All right, I'm gonna bump us out of here.